Къде е тази граница? Тя е разтегливо понятие. И все пак е хубаво да я има, като такава, която да даде параметри общи, по които да се движим. Няма конкретна граница, но тя се мести и все пак съществува. Не отсъства, тя съществува. До толкова, доколкото да може да събере същината и да се развие нещото, заради което човек трябва да го прави.
So what do you think nudity symbolizes?
Well, nudity means, like, in society, it means so many different things. I mean, it's kind of a hard question to answer, because on one hand, it is so widely accepted. You know, like you'll see it in adverts, you'll see it in TV, you see it on your news feed, on everything. It's so kind of, it's so present that you don't even pay attention to it anymore. But then at the same time, it's completely unacceptable. So it's at the weird crossroads between it's completely okay, it's a very benign example, but I mean, like with Instagrams or Facebook's kind of nipple bans, like it's completely unacceptable to have a female nipple present in a photo, but it's completely okay to have a highly sexualized image of a woman for capitalist reasons, if that makes sense. Whereas the female nipple is the only kind of thing differentiating that from, in terms of levels of nudity. But the nipple picture could be related to breastfeeding or art in general or anything else. So I feel like it's in a weird place where nudity is both completely accepted and also completely kind of pushed aside and really not allowed out in public.
Where do you think nudity stands in society today?
I think in our society it's very much in British culture to shy away from nudity and things like that, and I think it's beginning to take a turn where we're not just looking at the human body that's naked as this sexual object. We're looking at it now as an expression, as a beautiful thing, and people need to be more open about it. We need to be less prudish about it, because, you know, the most natural thing in the world is to be naked, yet in our society that's so unnatural. It's so...
Yeah, and at the same time, as you said, it's kind of sexualized and it's everywhere, but in like a very fetishized form, that there's these standards of beauty that everyone has to conform to, and they are unrealistic. And with modeling and with what we do, it's good that you know, everyone can be a model. Doesn't matter your body shape or you know, if you're conventionally beautiful. It's just something that you can do. It's very liberating. That's why I started modeling, and that's why I enjoy doing this.
Yeah, I agree entirely with what Anna's saying there. I think the less we show everyone of what our bodies are like, the only naked body we ever see is what's in the paper and what's in tabloids and what's on the runways, and that's not real people. You know, everyone, the lumps and bumps and shapes and curves is what makes you beautiful, and as modeling it's so liberating to be there and to be naked and to someone drawing you, and the bits of your body that you don't like, an artist will draw you in the most wonderful way and completely change how you view yourself. And the more people who get involved in these projects, the more confident people feel within their own skin. I think for me personally, the idea of, you know, being a model, I remember the first time I did it, I was like, the unveiling, and I was like, oh my god, everyone can see me, oh my god, everyone could see this part of my body I don't like, I'm so conscious of it, maybe if I pose this way it'll look better, that person will get a nicer angle. And then afterwards you just realise that it's so liberating to be like, you know what, this is me as naked as the day I was born, and that's confidence, and it's about self-love. And afterwards it's so liberating to be like, yeah, I did that, and You know, we all have parts of our body we're not entirely happy with, but you know what, that's your body, you can't change it, you may as well embrace it and love it. And I think it's entirely about self-love and about learning how to love your body.
Has nudity anything to do with gender equality?
Very much so. I think nudity in modern day now is about empowerment and being comfortable with your natural form, and gender equality is all about empowering people, and so is feminism, because I believe that the two terms, gender equality and feminism, are basically the same thing. But I do think that nudity brings that sort of self-love with people, to be confident about who they are and what they look like. And feminism and gender equality is about, you know, not being prejudiced against who you are as a person, what your sex is and stuff, and any like predetermined like gender role and stuff that you have to come up against and everything with how society thinks and feels. So it is very much like part in part, I would find, and stuff. It's on the same hand basically.
Where do you think is the limit between art and perversion?
I was thinking about that quite a bit. I think it kind of comes down to how do we interpret art, and I think it's really hard. There isn't a universal line where art becomes perversion. It again depends. Linking with my earlier example, it does depend on the beholder, because to someone something as minor and intentionally non-sexual becomes sexual and becomes perverse and becomes pornographic, even if it's not intended to do so, because of the standards or expectations or just experiences of the beholder are different. And that changes from culture to culture. Even within a culture, it changes between people, it changes between men and women, it changes between everyone. So I feel like there is no universal line. Obviously we all have our own lines. I know certainly where my line stands, but I touched the microphone, but I certainly know where my line stands, but I don't think there is, nor necessarily should there be a universal line, because it is, if we're talking about nudity in terms of art, like it depends on the person who's looking at it.
Ти даже в леглото сутрин си гол. В банята влизаш гол. След това излизаш. Ако излезеш чист в душата, сърцето и помислите си, ти носиш в себе си тази голота, но тя вече не е онази, която те кара да се чувстваш дискомфортно и не на място. Напротив. Ти си облечен всъщност с нея. И с тази голота ти отиваш чисто, премерено. Почти като не въхли, които се покланят.
How do you think people should look at nudity now and in the future, and how do you see it evolving?
Well, I really hope that people can recognize it for what it is, that it is just you, like without all your clothes and all the rest of it, it is you. Down to the bare necessities, excuse the pun, but it is basically that. And I want the media and everything to actually depict that and everything, to not shame women and men and stuff for being a wee bit, you know, pudgy or being a wee bit skinny and stuff like that. Is just what their form is and stuff, and it shouldn't be that you're shamed for that at all. And also, like I talked about before, like women not being shamed for breastfeeding their child either, to actually have their boobs out and everything, because personally I don't feel like that is something that should be sexualized at all by men or females, because females very much do the same as well with other females. So I would really like it for that to be what happens, and I do feel like there is a change within our generation actually showcasing that and trying to push that forward to people. They're actually targeting people for, why do you sexualize the naked form? Why do you sexualize certain organs that are on the female body? Or why do you shame people for having a certain body type? they're asking the hard questions. It's then trying to actually do it on a grander scale. And I hope that is actually what happens in the future. And it does seem like it will. And thinks it's just going to take a wee bit of time, I think.